Okay, so coming this way, we have a whole driveway full of parts. Thought I'd walk through everything so you can see what we end up with. Starting with the boat, this is a Geodesic Classic 12. Um, this is a boat that's a white hull, classic white hull shape, really pretty sheer, gorgeous boats, and relatively easy to build. I just want to walk through a lot of the other things that I did that I've really found to be quite nice. I don't have an old one of these boats, so I can't say that if you built it the normal way, you would end up with anything worse, but this worked. So here we go. So let's start with, I'm just going to walk around it so you can see it. And this boat has a sailing conversion. The Classic 12 is meant to sail and row, so you can see that it has oars, a seat, and a center case, and a mast partner. And but let's start with the mobility piece. It's sitting on a Waikiki canoeing trailer for a bicycle. I live about 3 blocks from a lake. If you look at some of my other videos, you'll see this boat sailing, and that's Lake Harriet in Minneapolis. It's close by. It's really nice to sail on, so I just basically hook this up to my bicycle and tow it. There's a T-fitting that goes onto the bow that allows it to connect to the bike, and I just take it down the street and away we go. Hull weight is about 30 pounds with this thing empty. For the stand, I just have a plywood and 2x6 mess down there with a roof rack pad, and the trailer works very well. It's important to position the axle in the right spot. Takes some screwing around, but you can figure it out. So that's the first thing. The second thing that's of interest is the way we attach the bow. That's called a cutwater, that piece of wood on the bow right here. Right. And it runs down the center of the boat. That's a piece of steam bent ash in the front of the boat, and as it goes to the back, it ends up just being a straight piece. Maybe I can pick this thing up with one hand. You can just kind of see what's going on. That continues all the way down the center line. And attaching this in the plans calls for a I think 3M 4200 or 3M 5200. So I just want to call out what I did, which worked really well, is I used something called very high bond tape from 3M, VHB. You can get it in various widths, including this 3/8 width here and the 1/2 inch width that's required for the back. And I literally just taped this on, and it stayed all season, no worries. So do that. It's much easier than nailing it or stapling it. The other thing that it's different about my boat is that in the bow, the plans call for these inner gunnel to come into the outer one. I just can't do that. I'm too just not my thing. So I just made them parallel and figured this out. So this is custom. It's more of a survival tactic to finish the boat. I'm going to cover a few other things as we walk around. The skin on this boat is the 9-ounce heavy-duty skin you can get from Larry on the site, but it's not coated with varnish. It's coated with the Skin Boat School from Corey Friedman. He has a polyurethane that's 2-part. This is excellent. It rolls on, it's flexible, and super high confidence. I've actually run this boat down a garbage can by accident while I was towing it, and it didn't make any marks, so it's pretty good. I mean, it's and you have UV stability, which is the real win for that coating, because as it comes through the underside, it picks up and secondarily bonds to all of the stringers and the gunnels, so you have a very, very confident skin that's a non-issue. Absolutely no issue with this stuff at all. I'm actually experimenting with making an Anegra basalt prototype bow for some other ideas, and I'll keep you posted on that. But for now, on this boat, this is a totally acceptable coating and skin combination for this construction. It's better than the varnish, I believe, because it's actually a solids product, and and will remain flexible without any problems. I actually peeled some of the stuff off my basement floor today, and it was still flexible a year later, and flexible like a skateboard wheel, not flexible like you would break it. Hard to really relay that over the internet. The oars are shot in Tenny. These are spruce oars. I did not make these. I wanted to use the boat this season, so I just broke down and bought the oars. Highly recommend them. They're excellent. They're really great people to work with also. And then the oar locks are sapele, which is a mahogany species. And to make these attach, I ended up attaching these with a plywood block, the block itself, and then additional pieces of this gunnel stock I just put on the inside. You can't see it, but this block has a block here, and it spans the one that has the rib. So you just come up from the bottom and clamp it and goop it up with thickened epoxy. I use Moss Woodzilla, and then you walk away, and then it's permanently mounted. These have been very, very good. I've actually had to do the gunnels twice, the oar locks twice, because I actually put them on wrong. The first time, the first pair was oriented the other way on a diagonal, and as my son said, I don't know how you ever thought this would work, and he was right. This works, so do it this way. So yeah, so that's that. The boat is Douglas fir, just commodity Douglas fir, tight grain, about 8 to 10 years per inch on the average. And you can see the grain there. That's kind of what you're looking for. And then these pieces this is a white ash. It's the same stock that I use to make the ribs. So this is really nice heartwood, but the ribs are farther out on the tree, so you can bend them. You can get really nice bends. That's one piece. That's pretty amazing. But the fun part about building these boats is you get to bend wood and you don't actually have to sand that much. And finally, the center case is mahogany, and the seat is also something called Marante. It's just marine plywood. You can buy it hopefully near where you live. It's only about $60 a sheet, and for 3/8, and it's much better than anything you would buy at a big box store, because it's marine grade and waterproof. Okay, so oars, boat, floorboards are also fir. There's 5 screws that go through the hull and attach the skeg to the bottom. That was profiled after the boat was built, and it's just screwed down, but it's stuck down with I think I used PL adhesive. It's you can get that at a big box store. It's actually quite good. It's a urethane. That's really what you want to use. And then you also attach this stick here with those screws. That way, if I ever have to reskin the boat, or my grandkids do after I'm dead, you can take off that stick and this will come off, and you'll be able to service the bottom of the boat. I don't think that's going to be an issue. Okay, so that's the overview. And then now for sailing, it's also a rudder. That rudder is built to plan. There's nothing interesting about it, other than I did mess it up. This block is there to provide spacer to move that bolt up, because I've actually have these pintle too high, so they should be actually down another ½ inch. So just full disclosure, don't do that, but it's not a big deal. You can space it up. It's worked fine. And the other piece is the centerboard, and that's just the same plywood that we're using for the same species of plywood that we're using for the seat and using for the bow piece. Okay, so mast is a carbon fiber 400 centimeter windsurfing mast that I just had. I am a windsurfer, a retired windsurfer. I'm old, but I don't need this thing. It's a 400 centimeter. It's kind of a small size for here. I hardly ever use it. And then I also had a 5 square meter Gastra windsurfing sail. It's a very conservative sail. What I do to rig this boat is I put the sail on the mast, And then I put the boom on the mast, and the boom is a windsurfing boom. And the main sheet literally set up as literally a piece of, what is this stuff called? Stay put. It's a Dyneema line and a tiny little block, carbon block from Harkin, and a little hunk of Dyneema tied onto the boom. So this is the entire main sheet, and that brass hasp allows it to clip onto the onto this rope that's on the back of the boat here. The same stuff, stretches pretty well, and then all of the rig tension for downhaul is achieved by just using a off-the-shelf Chinook windsurfing part, and it cleats here, so there's no rig tension at all on the boat itself. So that was a good idea, because I don't want to load or stay the rig onto the frame. I don't think. I'm sure it would be okay if you did something where you brought it out here and did this same blocking thing like the oars, but I'm unstaying it just because it's easier to rig. To attach the partner, I'll jump back to the rig in a second, but since I'm here, to attach the partner, same sort of thing as the oarlock blocks. These are other stock that matches this block, so there's one on either side of the other block that's part of the boat. These bolts go through the blocks that are then glued to this piece of plywood that's underneath, so that if you take these bolts off, these things just slide out, and then you couldn't tell that the mast partner was in. So this is removable cleanly without any molestation of the boat itself. So that's that. And then the final thing is, I still have to fillet this. This is I just didn't get this done, but I want to fillet this with Woodzilla to hide the other glue that I use. This is called Gluezilla. They have funny names for products, but MAS epoxy Moss is high fives. This stuff's really good. So you do the Woodzilla fillet, so you'd be after something like that. I'll do this when I get it into the house over the winter. This block is my mast base, and this attaches a windsurfing mast base to it, through it with a bolt. Whole thing got stuck in at once, and then this goes on to the base. So the obvious question is, what's up with this bunch of lines in your Christmas tree stand? And the reason I did this is there's 4 holes here, 2 fore and 2 fore and aft, and this line goes underneath. It doesn't go under the rib, be careful. It just stays under the block and then pops back up over here. So there's 2 of these lengths, and then we tie off 4 hunks of just loops back. What this does is it limits this urethane windsurfing mast component. That component is actually, if you're a sailboarder, you drop your rig and the rig falls in the water. That's where the hinge point is. Well, you don't want this thing to kick out a mile. So this setup just allows me to limit how far the foot of the mast can move when the boat gets hit by gusts. And what that translates into when you're sailing is a mast that, when you get hit with wind, it actually causes the mast to fall a tiny amount to leeward, and then it forces twist into the top of the sail, which effectively makes it smaller. As you notice, I am safety oriented, but if I really was, I would have flotation in the boat, and there's nothing in it yet. I've used it all summer. I don't recommend doing this without flotation, because that advice probably would be unwise, but I've had no problems keeping this boat flat in up to maybe 12 to 15 knots of gusts, shifty, weird gusts, using just this setup. I would probably recommend changing the mast. This mast, if you're a sailor for windsurfing, is a IMCS 20, I think it's 20 or 22, so it's really soft. That's a number that tells you how soft the mast is. I'd like a little bit stiffer mast, and I have a slightly longer one that I might try that's higher carbon content. I'll play around with that next year, but it totally works. It sailed really, really well and beautifully. And the nice thing about having it depower is you don't feel like you're going to go to the bottom in it, hopefully. So plan for flotation. They make some foam rollers for working out. I think they're 4-inch diameter, which I think will come in underneath the seats and just lash them onto the ribs, something like that. I'll do that over the winter. And then finally there's a brass hull identification number, which cites the designer, Platt, Montfort, the hull ID, and myself, who over the time frame that I'd built it. So yeah, so that's a lot of details, but hopefully if you're building one of these things, you'll appreciate the lines. They are gorgeous. They're fun to walk around the entire time you're building it. I don't know if the video is going to do it justice, but they are gorgeous boats. And if you have any questions, just don't hesitate to email me with any questions on the boat, and I'll try to respond. I'm a little slow on video comments because I had no idea anyone was actually watching what I was putting up. So thanks very much, and happy building. Bye.